الحمد لله الذي كتب على نفسه الرحمة والصلاة والسلام على من أرسل بالرحمة للعالمين أما بعد. My dear brothers and sisters, in this Friday talk I will be speaking about Aqeeqa inshallah ta'ala, which there's two hadith that first of all we will read. عن سمرة بن جندب رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال كل غلام مرتهن بعقيقته يذبح عنه يوم السابع ويحلق رأسه ويسمى. And the second hadith that Aisha radiallahu anha, she narrates that عن الغلام شاتان وعن الجارية شات, which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that we must and we should do aqiqah for our children, and for the boys is two sheep and for girls is one. So I'm finished with this. This is not what I want to talk about. People hear this hadith, they hear this hadith, but they really don't know why Islam brought this aqiqah. This is what I want to talk about this Friday khutbah. It's not telling you to do aqiqah. No, we want to know why we do aqiqah. What is the benefit of aqiqah? First of all, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يُطِيعَ الرَّسُولَ فَقَدْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ تَوَلَّى فَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَفِيظًا, which means that whomever obeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or obeys the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, indeed he obeys the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Means when you obey the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is as you obeyed the Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obeying the Prophet is something that is very important. So when you do aqiqah, you obey the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, i.e., which means that you obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is to do with aqidah, with in your belief, in your iman, which is the second thing that I want to mention, that it is in the higher rank of iman when you do aqiqah. Why it is in the higher rank of iman? Because if you didn't believe in aqiqah in your heart, if you're not certain about it, and you didn't like it, and you didn't love it inside in your heart, you wouldn't bring it out to do it by action, by your hand. You understand? You wouldn't spend your money and your time to do it. So when you spend your money and your time of doing aqiqah, it means that you are the fulfilled command of the iman, inshallah ta'ala. If you wouldn't be a believer, you wouldn't do the aqiqah. And another thing that this is one side of the aqidah wise. And now I'm coming to the community wise. What does aqiqah brings to the community, to our community? So the first thing is that it is announcement of our nasab, i.e. our chain of our family, the tree of our family. So when someone has a child and he does aqiqah, this means this is my child. This is my child. This is not a child from zina, a'yadhu billah. Okay? It's not child from haram. It is my child. I am proud of it. Do you ever see people with the zina, they bring the child and do aqiqah for them? No. Why? Because he's ashamed of it. So while you do aqiqah, it is you saying that this is my son and my generation. And there were people in previously, they would never do the registration of their children. Until now, I know people myself, they don't do registration. Okay? They don't do registration. I'm not telling you don't do it. This is something else. Yes, you should do it. They don't do it, but because they do the aqiqah, they say it's certain. No, do the registration as well, brothers. It's important, especially while in this type of countries. Registration is important. So this is first thing. Secondly, is that in the previous days, before Islam, that people, when they had a child, they would do aqiqah only for the boys, not for the girls. When the Islam came, Islam said no, you do for the boys as well as the girls. So Islam gives the right of the women in the community. So people think that Islam doesn't give the right to the woman. This is the first step, that we give the right to the woman, isn't it? So this is the first step of we giving the right to the woman. Secondly, in the previous days, when the child was to born, that blood was to come down from the ladies, from the sisters. They would have bring that dirty blood and put it on their head. So Islam said, no, don't do this dirty thing. Don't do this thing that's not clean and nice. Do aqiqah. Slaughter a shat. Okay? Slaughter a 2 shat for a boy and 1 for a girl. Another important thing is that we need to be aware of for community-wise on Aqeeqa that we need to be aware of is that Aqeeqa tells us that you are responsible for this child. How we are responsible for this child? In the first step, that this child was born, you are ordered to do what? To do Aqeeqa for him. You must do Aqeeqa for him, isn't it? So it tells us that we have a responsibility. There's a responsibility that we have and we must do. Okay? And the first responsibility is what? Is Aqeeqa. And then comes what? Tarbiyah. Giving them good manners, giving them good deen, giving them good Islam, isn't it? So that's why Aqeeqa in Islam is important. Tells you, it's not just you make generation and make numbers and say in the future, say I'm a grandfather of 55 or 70 children and all of this, and make numbers for yourself and make digit number for yourself and just like this and go. No, Islam wants to teach us that we are responsible for our children, especially in this century that we are in, that our children are learning bad and wrong things, and we must be responsible for them. And one of the responsible that in this type of countries, you should be bringing your children to the academies and schools that we have in Masjid Nur and the other masajid, Essential Masjid, Jami Mosque, Academy Mosque. They're all the academies that you should take your children in. This is your responsibility. Your responsibility started with the Aqeeqa, and the second one is teaching them. So you should teach them and let them know the right upon them in Islam. Okay? Don't say, Wallah, 5 to 8 is too much. Why is too much? They've been in the school all day long, from 8 to 3 to 4. They're tired, they're bored. They can't do it. No, that's not mercy. This itself is not mercy on them, brothers. The mercy is that you bring them to learn. This is your duty, to bring them to the mosque and to learn, or to any academy or to any Islamic center to learn. Why? That 2 hours, brothers, guarantee from me. This is guaranteed 100%, inshallah. Yeah? If they wouldn't come in the mosque and learn, they would be at home on the tablets and iPads, isn't it? Or play with the PlayStation and play games, isn't it? We all agree on that. If they don't come to the mosque and they don't learn, they play on the computer, on the phone. So that's why we should and we must bring them and to learn, teach them. So that's one of the responsibilities that Islam tells us from Aqeeqa. We are responsible for our children. And then another thing is that we must be aware of, my dear brothers, that the human nation needs to grow, and especially the Muslim. We need numbers. We need numbers, i.e. we need generation and after generation. In some communities, in some peoples, they just have 1 child, 2 child. That's not enough. Because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ ordered us to have a child, so we increase numbers of the Muslims. So that's why we should and we must increase our numbers. And the sisters as well. This is maybe another khutbah. The sisters does the things that they do not have a child. What is the rules and regulation on that? And that is itself, it could be a khutbah on that as well. It's an important matter. And we've seen, and I get a phone call a lot from the sisters that they keep saying, we don't want the children. Anyway, in Aqeeqa tells us that we must increase the number of the Muslims. So another thing is that Aqeeqa tells us that our community will become together and will bring the community together. So when you do the Aqeeqa, maybe you don't like someone, or maybe someone don't like you, but when they walk into the mosque and you do an Aqeeqa, this makes him like the situation and like you as well, and change his mind about you. It means that there will be no more hate between the Muslim brothers. And also, even if you know the guy who doesn't pray, call him, come, say to him, come, there is Aqeeqa, come do the Aqeeqa. And also, like, I don't believe that the mosque will stop any brothers. They will not stop you. You could 2-3 brothers come together and do Aqeeqa in one time. It doesn't need to be only you alone. You understand? So you could come together. Maybe the sisters know each other, 3-4 of you come together, do very beautiful big Aqeeqa. This itself brings the community together and helps the community to cooperate with each other. And another thing is that we need to talk about is that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, صانع المعروف تقي مصارع السوء. صانع المعروف تقي مصانع السوء, which means that doing good for others, it is the means of that you could be prevented from anything bad that could happen to you, which means your child as well, because you're doing the Aqeeqa for your child, which means inshallah both of you will be prevented from anything bad that could happen to you or to your child. And also another thing about it is that the other thing is that we need to know is that Aqeeqa itself is you winning against shaitan. Why? Is you obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you obeyed the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam by doing this. And shaitan did not obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told shaitan or Iblis to do the sujood, he didn't obey. But when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells you to do the Aqeeqa and you obey the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this itself means that you are the winner against shaitan, because you obeyed and he didn't obey. So anyway, the last thing is that when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says al-abdul marhunatun bi'aqiqatihi, in this lafz, which means that ulama, they said first thing that if a child dies, he will not do shafa'ah. He will not ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you to go to paradise with him if you don't do Aqeeqa. This is one of the meaning. Another meaning means that he's marhun, which means that you cannot shave his hair until you do the Aqeeqa. You understand? Rahan is something that you take something from someone. For example, I take this phone from you and I give you something else. I give you gold. I say to you, if I didn't bring your phone back, you can sell the gold and take your money. So this is the rahan. Same wise, it means that you cannot take their hair until you give the shad. So those are the meanings of the Aqeeqa that the ulama, they spoke about it and they said it. All of it could be correct because there's no any problem in meaning of all of those. Because one hadith or one thing, it could give many meanings. And some ulamas, sometimes they came on one hadith with 70 benefit, like Imam Shafi'i did in majority of hadith. He comes and he says there's those benefits and he brings down all the benefits. So this is what I wanted to say to you brothers. Aqeeqa is important, aqidah wise, in the believing wise, as well as the community wise, and we should be aware of this matter. Okay. برای عزیز خوشحالش تکم بیر کتون انگلیزی که اوش اوی بانا هزنا کم مزگوت که لاری هبی دوی کوا دوسیه بگا پیکو کوبتو عقیقه بکن شد نیه تو تنها بتنیای خود بیکی اتوانم دوسیه نفر پیکو کوبنو عقیقه بکن. اللهم اغفر لنا والمؤمنين، اللهم ثبتنا على دينك، اللهم يا حي يا قيوم من أرادنا وأراد أبناءنا وأراد الإسلام والمسلمين بالسوء اللهم اشغله في نفسه. اللهم يا حي يا قيوم ثبتنا على دينك، اللهم أمتنا على الإسلام، اللهم أمتنا على الإسلام، اللهم أمتنا على الإسلام. يا حي يا قيوم، اللهم لا تحرمنا نظرا إلى وجهك الكريم. آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. أقيم الصلاة.